Are you ready to start decorating for Christmas? Well, I know I am. The weather has gotten cool. I didn't even decorate for fall. So I think Christmas is going up early this year. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. My name's Melissa. In today's video, I have for you 10 Christmas crafts that I have done over the past couple of years. These crafts are easy to make, they are very budget friendly, and they turn out so beautiful. I can't wait for you to see them. So go ahead, take out your Christmas decor, turn on this long video with all these beautiful things that I have to show you, or just sit back with a cup of coffee or hot chocolate and let's go ahead and get into these beautiful Christmas crafts. This first project is using this board that I got from Target several years back, and I just had it in my stash and didn't do anything with it. It cost me about $3, so I decided to give it a Christmas makeover. And I'm starting off by adding these little balls that I got from Hobby Lobby from their wood section. And I like these because one side of them is flat, so it's good for using as feet. And if you've been around my channel, you know that I do sometimes craft while I'm at work. And this was an afternoon where some of us ladies at the shop got together and did some crafting. So I'm working on this board. I'm using this red Waverly chalk paint in the color crimson, and I'm just going over all of the wood portion of the board. And I'm gonna do 2 coats of the red, and I'm also going to do the bottom, but I'm not gonna do the little feet. For the chalkboard portion, this black portion of this little tray was to be used sort of as chalkboard. I think it was a chalkboard paint. But anyway, I'm going over it with Waverly chalk paint in the color ivory. And I'm also going to use the same color on the little feet of the tray. And I'm sorry if you get location whiplash, but I'm back at home for this portion. But I did decide that it needed another coat of the chalk paint, the white chalk paint. And I am using a little spray bottle with water in it just to help that chalk paint, you know, smooth out and brush out a little smoother and a little thinner. And it does leave less brush marks when I do this. And like I said earlier, I'm using that ivory chalk paint to do the feet. And I tried to get as much of it without having to tape around the base of those feet, but I ended up putting some painter's tape around the base just so I could get really good coverage with that chalk paint. Now before I put the transfers down, I am going to spray it with the matte finish because this wood is very dry, even with the paint on it. So I'm going to paint it, or I'm going to spray it just to make sure none of that paint gets peeled up when I do the transfer. For the center part of this tray, I'm using the Redesign with Prima transfer set called Nutcracker Christmas. And there are several, these are really cute, but there are several that are just about the right size to go in the middle. So I'm gonna be using probably 6 of them, and just kind of, because they're kind of different tones, so I'm just gonna mix them up and just line them up, and maybe use some of these presents to kind of go with it and some of the snowflakes. But these are basically the transfers that I'm using for the center of the tray. I love using these transfers because it makes crafting so much easier. But basically you just peel off the white backing of the transfer, you lay the transfer on your project, and then you use the little stick to rub that transfer onto your project. And once you're finished rubbing the transfer completely down and it's all transferred from the plastic onto the project, then you take the plastic and then you go over each image with that plastic, and this just sets it all in place. All right, we've got all of the transfers on there, which I think it's looking so cute, and everything is painted on the bottom. So before I go over, I do want to go over the red part just to kind of tone it down to match kind of the softness of the nutcrackers. I want to go over it with a white wax, but before I do, because I don't want it to be pink, so I don't want it to be too dull, but I'm gonna go over it with a matte finish because you do need to seal your transfers in. So I'm just gonna spray the top and the bottom with this matte finish sealer. Once that dried, I'm going over it with this ivory paint, and at first I thought I was going to kind of paint the whole red part, but as I started wiping it back, I really didn't like the look of it. And I don't know if you noticed, but I did kind of have a little accident where I accidentally got some paint on the side. But once I noticed it, I liked the way it looked, so I decided to do that on the whole project. Around all of the edges, I just kind of dry brushed that white paint or white wax along the edges. And surprisingly, even though I didn't paint over the red, the white along the edges did tone down that red, and it just kind of makes it look kind of snowy. I just think this turned out so cute. I just love the nutcrackers. You'll have to let me know if you decorate with nutcrackers, but I think this would be so cute in a coffee bar. All right, I'm at work today and I'm gonna do a little bit of crafting. I have this little house that I thrifted from Salvation Army. It was on a Wacky Wednesday, so I got it for 50 cents. Pretty sure this is one of the ones they sell at Dollar Tree for $1.25. But for 50 cents, I couldn't pass it up. So I'm gonna get this transformed into some pretty Christmas decor. To get this started, I'm gonna paint this inside part in the Waverly chalk paint called Ivory. I did give this 2 coats, and once I brushed it on, I did go back and use the pouncing motion with my brush. All right, now to go across the top edge or the roof of this, I'm gonna make a mold. I'm going to use this one here. This is a Redesign with Prima mold, and I'll put a link to our store in the description box, and if you're interested in a mold like this, then you can reach out to us and we can arrange something. But I'm going to use the casting resin, so I'm going to go ahead and get these poured in the cups. I'll start mixing and pour. All right, when the resin is ready to be taken out of the mold, it turns white. So you just start popping it out and it comes out like that. And now what I want to do before it gets too set, I want to go ahead and put it on top of this. It's already probably been sitting a little too long. So, but I want it to look like that. So I'm gonna go ahead, get this set into place, and I'm gonna put it down. I'm gonna attach it down with some painter's tape, just so that it can maintain this shape, and then I'll glue it down. I let it set in between customers, and then I took it off, and I'm just using the wood glue to glue it into place, and then I tape it down until it's dry. Now I'm back home, and I decided that I wanted to do a little something to the front of the little house. So I have this same redesign with Prima mold, and I'm gonna use the air dry clay, and I'm gonna use it. This is the brand Sculpey Air, and I got this from Walmart, but I'll link it below. But I'm just gonna use it to make the little molds for the front. And for this, I used a little bit of baking soda to kind of act as sort of a non-stick to keep it from sticking in the mold. But I just, measure out how long I need it to be. I put the glue on the back of the mold and then place all the little pieces onto the front of this little house. And I'm gonna let it set overnight so that the air dry clay can dry and the glue can adhere. Okay, everything is dry and I have this taped off. I also taped off the back because I am gonna paint the back, but I'm gonna paint all of this now with this Waverly chalk paint in the color Crimson, and I'll probably end up having to give it 2 coats. Once all of the paint dries, I'm gonna use a transfer. I'm actually gonna use this transfer from this set called Cozy Christmas, and it is by Timeless Designs, and I actually got this from Amazon. I've used this brand a few times and I really like it. I'll leave the link to this in the description box. But these are the pages. It has 3 pages. This is one of them. This is another one. I think that is so pretty. And then this is the 3rd one. So these are really pretty, but for this project, I'm gonna use this, this transfer. Using rub-on transfers makes crafting so easy. You just take off the white backing, you lay the transfer onto your project, and each transfer set comes with a little stick, and you just start rubbing that transfer onto your project and lifting up the plastic as you go, the top plastic. And once you finish with transferring the piece, then you just go over it with the clear plastic. Once that's done, I'm going to seal it in with this acrylic sealer in the matte finish. I don't want to use a wax because I don't want to smear that red paint. After the spray is dry, I just use a couple of little green Christmas tree sprigs, a button, and some little berries, and that kind of gives the top a little bit of added interest. Then I'm using a white wax to finish it off, and with this white wax, I'm basically using it as a dry brush technique just to make it look a little snowy and kind of match the finish of the transfer. I think this turned out so absolutely adorable. This project is going to be making some ornaments or making an ornament, but I'm gonna give you an idea. But I got these wood ornaments from Dollar Tree. I actually think I might have gotten them last year. I don't even know if they carry them this year, but they come with the string and the hole already drilled in. So I'm just gonna take one of them. I like the look of this one. And I am going to paint it and put a transfer on it and make it into a pretty little ornament. I'm gonna use to paint the center part, I'm gonna use the Waverly chalk paint in the color Moss. All right, I have them painted. I went ahead and just did all three, but to give it more of a sort of worn look, I'm just gonna take my little finger sander and just kind of go over the edges just a little bit, just to kind of give it, you know, like that worn, less just painted look. So I'm gonna get this done and then we'll move on. For the transfers that I'm going to use for these ornaments, I am going with the IOD Iron Orchid Design transfer kit called Christmas Valley. I'm not exactly sure when this one came out because I just kind of started crafting and I bought this last year. So anyway, there are some really pretty birds in here. So I am just going to get those birds. Let me find one of them. Like here's one of them right here that I'm going to use. Maybe this one, and actually this cardinal right here. So I'm going to get these cut out and then I'm going to start transferring. Again, with the transfers, you just take off that white backing and lay the transfer onto your project. Use the stick to transfer it on, to rub that transfer onto your project. And when you're done, you take the plastic, you rub it over the transfer, and you burnish it into place. And it's that simple. When you use a transfer, you always want to make sure you seal it in. So to seal these ornaments, to seal these transfers onto the ornament, I'm going to use the Waverly varnish in matte. And once I do that, I'm only gonna do the front right now because I'm gonna go over the back, I think, with a dark wax, and I'm also gonna put kind of the dark wax around it, but I wanna get it sealed first because I don't really wanna change the color. So you just put the varnish on it like this, and it'll dry matte. And then once that's dry, then I'll go over it with the dark wax around the edges and on the back. And this doesn't actually take really long to dry at all. So. And there we go. I'm gonna let it dry. All right, now that is dry, so I'm gonna turn them over. And to stain these, like I said, I'm using the Waverly Antique Wax. Now to finish these off, I have the string already strung through here, and I have some beads. These I got from Dollar Tree, and then I have some that I've thrifted. So I'm gonna use these to put at the bottom of the string. I'm gonna tie it, and then this project will be done. To string that twine through the beads, I did use a little piece of Scotch tape at the end of the two pieces of the two ends and strung them through, and then just pulled that tape off. This is how they turned out. I think they just turned out so pretty. It's something so simple, but yet Just so pretty and so cozy and so Christmassy. You'll have to let me know if you decorate with kind of a woodland theme. These ornaments kind of give me that woodland theme vibe. So let me know if that's how you decorate. Project, I'm gonna make over this tray and turn it into a little Christmas tray. And before I paint it, I made sure, and I don't, because I'm at work, so I don't have the bottle with me or the can, but I did spray this with a coat of Zinsser shellac, and I'll put a link to it in the description box. But I did put a coat of that just so that the paint would have something to hold on to, and hopefully it'll keep it from chipping too much. But I'm going to decoupage a napkin on the middle. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint the outside of the tray, or the outer edge of the tray, with Waverly chalk paint in the color crimson. I did go over this with 2 full coats for sure, and I brush the paint on, but then I also go back and pounce my brush on there just to get rid of any brush marks. And I also did go back over it a 3rd time on spots that still didn't get covered. For the center part, I'm going to use the Waverly chalk paint in ivory. To start off, I did go over this with 2 coats of the chalk paint. The napkin that I'm using is one that I had actually in my pantry stash at home. And this is only a 2-ply napkin, so to take it off, you can just use a piece of painter's tape on the corner, and that helps kind of get the napkin separated, get the plies separated, and then you just want to carefully pull the plies apart. Now, most napkins have 3 plies, but this one only had 2. Now, when I started to go ahead and start the decoupaging, I realized that I felt like it needed 1 more coat of the white paint. So I went over it 1 more time, then I go over it with a coat of the Mod Podge. I did let the Mod Podge dry, and once the Mod Podge was dry, I put the napkin on top of the center part, then put a piece of parchment paper, I'll get it out in a minute, over that, and then use my little mini heat press to get that Mod Podge reactivated. And then I started using some water to separate the glued part from the part that wasn't glued. And there were some places where I felt like the Mod Podge wasn't sticking good enough, or I needed to go back down with my heat press. And so I just did that, and I continued that until all of the napkin was removed. There were a few little parts that didn't want to cooperate, so I had to use my little knife just to pull those pieces up. Once I got all of that done, I went over it with another coat of Mod Podge. Now along the inner corners, I'm just going to use a silver paint pen, and that's just to kind of, create kind of a joiner between the paint and the center part. Then I thought I was going to use the paint kind of and smudge it on the little dots that are along the edge of the tray. And you can see here I'm kind of discussing it with my husband, and I just didn't really like the way that looks. So this is real life crafting. I'm showing you that it doesn't always kind of turn out the way you think it is, but that's okay. That's what paint's for. So I'm going over it with another coat of paint just to cover up that silver. Once it dries, then I go back over it with that paint pen and just put the paint on each little dot. And I think that looks better. Once that was dried, I did spray it with a coat of a matte sealer spray, and then this project was finished. I think it turned out really cute, and this is a great way to just add a little Christmas to your bedroom next to your bed on a little bedside table. This would be great in a bathroom, but this little tray is perfect and it's so inexpensive to make. I have this frame that I thrifted from my neighborhood. Somebody was just giving away a bunch of frames, and then this one was in there. And it's already green. I don't know if you can really see it in the light, but it's already green with this pretty gold embellishment. So I'm not even gonna do anything to the frame, but I am going to use an IOD transfer from this packet. I got it last year, never used it, but I'm going to use, if I can find it, I'm gonna use this bird right here. I just think it is so pretty, and it's gonna really fit well in this frame. And I'm gonna put the bird on top of this bit of sheet music. I thrifted this book, this music book, from a garage sale for 50 cents. And I did it for the sole purpose of being able to use the music as background on projects. So this is gonna be an easy one. I'm just gonna cut this out to fit the frame, and then I'm gonna put the transfer on here. If you've never used a transfer before, it's super easy. You just take the white backing off, lay the transfer onto your project, and you use this little stick to rub on top of the transfer, and you start lifting up that little plastic until the transfer is completely onto your project. Then when you're finished, you go over it with that plastic and make sure that you press all of the image into the project you're working on. Then now that I'm done, I'm just gonna take some tape in case someone, if they buy this and they wanna use the frame for something else, it'll be easy for them to take this apart. But I'm just gonna tape it to the cardboard and then put the cardboard and the image back into the frame and close it up. And that is how simple this project is. And I just think it turned out so pretty. I think this is the perfect addition to any Christmas vignette. And this is a great example of when you see a frame in a thrift store, make sure, if it's pretty, make sure you take it home with you. They're easy to make over into whatever decor you want it to be. I'm pretty much crafting my stash. This is something that I bought from Target. I don't even know how long ago, but it's a pack of 3 wood houses. Got it for $5. So I am going, and this is going to be so simple. I'm going to take these 3 houses and turn them into a really cute Christmas vignette. The first thing that I'm gonna do for this is I'm going to use some paper from this Paper Studio set that I got from Hobby Lobby, $6.99, and I paid either 40 or 50% off, can't remember. But I'm gonna use this paper on all 3 of the pieces. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just put Mod Podge on the front, what I want to be the front of each one. And you wanna make sure you get on the edges, especially, so that that paper doesn't come up. And as you can see how I've put the paper on, I am just lining it up on the edge. And that kind of gives me a good, as long as I don't let it slide, to keep it straight. And then I'm using my little brayer to just bray it on, get it set real good. And I got these, it's a set of 3 brayers from Amazon. So I'll put a link to that in the description box. Now I have the paper on here. I'm gonna let it dry before I cut it. I want it to dry really good, and then I'll cut it. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it to where I can still use these bits of paper for tags at my vendor booth. So it's not gonna go to waste. I gave it probably a couple hours to let that Mod Podge kind of set. And then I just went around, after I cut it, I went around with my little finger sander and sanded around the edges just to give it that clean, crisp, and kind of worn look. Then I go over it with a coat of Mod Podge. Now that the top coat of Mod Podge is dry, I'm now going to decorate each little house. And I have these words. This is Merry, and this one is Bright. And I got these from Target. They came in a pack. I don't even remember when, 2 or 3 years ago maybe, and I just never used them. So I'm gonna use them here. And they come with a little paper on the back, and they are a little sticky, but I want them to stay. So, and I've used these before, and the glue does tend to, you know, fade after a while, the stickiness. So I am going to put some glue, especially on these parts that are fancy and stick out. Now for these two, I'm gonna actually use some transfers that I have left over from one of the Redesign with Prima sets, actually 2 different sets. This is from the Nutcracker one, and then this one, I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, I'm gonna use these transfers on these, and then I'm gonna do something else. I'm actually going to hot glue this wreath I got from Walmart. It came in a pack of 4. They're like mini ornaments or something. And I'm gonna hot glue that to that. So now I'm just gonna get these transferred. The transfers are really easy to use. You just take off that white backing, place the image where you want it on your project, and use the little wooden stick that comes with the transfers to rub the transfer onto the project. This one right here took a little more effort and a little more time, so rather than bore you, I did it off camera. Then for the wreath, I'm just putting a good amount of hot glue on the back side, and then I put it in the center of that short little house and let that hot glue set. And I did forget to mention with the transfers that once you're finished transferring it, you just take that clear paper and rub over those transfers to get them set into place. To finish this off, I do need to seal the transfers, so I'm going to use the Waverly varnish in matte, and I'm also going to put a coat of the varnish on the raw wood as well. You'll have to let me know in the comments if you've been knowing about this Waverly varnish. I only saw it in my Walmart a few weeks ago, and I really like it. It doesn't leave any brush marks, and it's really easy to use, and it's very reasonably priced. But anyway, here is the final project. I really think these, oh my gosh, these just turned out so cute. I really just think they are just adorable and so budget friendly. Let me know what you think. This project, I'm using this little cutting board that I got from Hobby Lobby. The price on it is $2.49, but I got it for 40% off, so that's about $1.50. So this project is definitely going to cost less than $5. I have this casting resin that I'm going to use in a mold, and this is some that I already have, and by the time I use it, it's only a small little portion of the cost of this. I'm also going to use a sheet of this paper from this book. The book was $7, and then I can't remember if it was 40 or 50% off when I got it, but I'm going to use one of the sheets. I'm going to use that sheet right there as I'm going to decoupage it to my cutting board. The casting resin that I'm using is a quick cure resin. Once you mix part A and part B, look how quick it cures. It takes about 10 minutes. Now for the paper, I am going to be putting some string around this neck part. So the paper doesn't cover the whole thing. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to cut a piece out of this red portion. And that, when I put this on top, this is gonna go here. It's not gonna matter that there's not a perfect seam like that, because this is gonna have the string around it. It'll make sense once you see me do it. Before I put the decoupage paper or paper before I decoupage it onto the front or back, whatever, I'm gonna paint the other side and the sides with this red. It's a Waverly chalk paint in the color Crimson. So I'm gonna paint this first and let it dry. Once the paint's dry, I turn it over and I put a good coat of Mod Podge, and I get that paper put down and I mash it down really good. Then while that's drying, my casting mold is ready, so I just pop it out of the silicone. But now that that is ready, I'm gonna go ahead and get it painted in that same color red, and then I'm going to sand off the paper from the little cutting board. I want to seal the top of the paper, so I put another coat of Mod Podge and let it dry. Now to bring out the details in the ornament, I am going to lightly just kind of dry brush on the top with Waverly chalk paint in the color Ivory. Here's the chalk paint, it's in Ivory. And that is really all I'm gonna do to the top. Now to seal this in, I wanna make sure it gets sealed in good. I'm just gonna use the acrylic sealer in the matte finish. For the neck area, I'm just gonna use this kind of whitish, I have to fix that. But I'm gonna use the sort of string to just wrap around. And I'm gonna make kind of a messy wrap. I don't want it to be real neat. So I'm just gonna kind of go like this. And then come back here and finish it off where I started. Give that a cut. Like I said, I'll have to fix that up. Now that this is dry, I'm gonna go over it with some wood glue and then a couple dabs of making sure I get around the edges, then a couple dabs of hot glue, and that will hold it in place until the wood glue has had time to dry. And I think to finish it off, I'm gonna use some of this antique wax, and I have this little bitty sponge dauber, and I'm just gonna go around the edges. And this is how it turned out. Honestly, I think this one may be my favorite. And if you did want to use this as an ornament, you could always poke a hole at the top and add some string. Project, I'm going to make this into a Christmas frame, and I'm going to start by taking off the back and I'm going to paint it. This is something that I thrifted actually from my neighborhood. I just put out a post in our neighborhood Facebook page that I was looking for frames, and someone gave this one to me, so this was free. So this will definitely be an under $5 project, but I'm gonna paint this in the Waverly chalk paint in the color Crimson. Now this is a plastic frame, so I'm gonna do 3 coats of the paint, and then I'm gonna spray it with a sealer because I do want to use a white wax to kind of soften up the red to match the transfer. All right, for the frame, for the inside of the frame, I have cut out a little piece of cardboard. Instead of painting it, I am going to use one of the pieces of this Paper Studio sheets of paper. And I think the one that I'm gonna use is, where is it? This one. I just think it's soft and it'll be a pretty background. And then I'm gonna use a transfer on top of it. And the transfer is coming from Nutcracker Christmas from Redesign with Prima. And this is that set, and I'll show you. I think these are so pretty. But see how all the tones are muted? That's why I want to use the white wax on the frame. But look at her, isn't she pretty? So anyway, these are so pretty. I trace out the paper and I cut it out to the size it needs to be. And then I'm just going to put that transfer on top of the paper. Again, the same way I used the little stick this time to release that image from the paper, from the plastic, and then I burnish it in with the plastic. Next, I'm going to use the Mod Podge, put the paper down, and let that dry. Well, like I said, this is plastic. The paint has nothing to hold on to, so after I sprayed it with the sealer, look what happened. The paint started coming off. So now that I have the sealer on there, I'm gonna go over it again with another coat of paint, Hopefully the sealer will grab onto that paint and then I can seal it again. Hopefully. Y'all keep y'all's fingers crossed. This time I'm gonna paint it with that pouncing motion. This will give me better coverage and it'll give it a little bit of extra texture. All right, the paper is nice and adhered to the cardboard, so I do need to seal, even though this is gonna be behind glass, I do need to seal the transfer. So I'm just gonna go over the top of this with one more coat of Mod Podge, and I'm gonna let that dry. And I have the, let me get this smooth. All right, I have the frame, and that last coat I did with that pouncing motion, so I have good coverage. Now I want to try to protect the paint, so I'm gonna go over it with the Waverly varnish. Hopefully this will not pull that paint, and I'm gonna go with a light hand. So hopefully this will not pull that paint off of the plastic, but it will seal it in. So once these two things dry, then I'm gonna come in with the white wax on the frame, and then we can put it all together. For the white wax, you just put it on like regular wax and you wipe back the excess. And if you have too much, you can go back over it with the clear wax and get it to the finish you want it to be. I feel like it needs just a little something else. So I have these little ribbons and I'm just gonna make a little bow, and it's just gonna go right here in the corner, and it's gonna be a super simple bow, just a little crisscross, and kind of see if that's about as big as I want it. This is an easy one, and I think that's about the right size. So now I'll just cut about right here, and then I will make the little bow. Again, I just do the little crisscross. I grab it in the middle, pinch it together, and then I'm gonna use that same really skinny, narrow ribbon and tie it around the middle to tie it all together. And then once I have it tied, I will I'll hot glue it to the corner. And then I found a little gold button that I thought looked really cute. I'll trim off a little bit of the length, and then this project is done. I think this turned out so sweet and so Christmassy. And it was definitely less than $5. Let me know in the comments what you think about this one. This project, I found this little teapot at Salvation Army, and it was on sale for 99 cents. For the body of it, I'm using Waverly chalk paint in ivory, and for the handles, unless I change my mind, I'm using the Waverly chalk paint in the color cinnamon. Is that cinnamon? Crimson. Sorry, not cinnamon, it's crimson. Didn't have my glasses on. So anyway, that's how I'm painting it. This did require 2 coats, and for the first coat, I just brushed it on just to get some paint on there for the second coat to grip onto. When I did the second coat, I went over it with the pouncing motion, which you know I love to do. I just feel like it gives it a good texture. I did end up having to do like a half coat just for the parts that there still wasn't very good coverage. I just made sure everything was painted. Now for the spout and the handle, I did it in the red, and I did do 2 coats. The first coat, I just brushed it on. The second coat, I still brushed it, but every now and then I would do a little dab really didn't show brush marks that bad, but I wanted to make sure it got good coverage. So I did do the pouncing motion on the outer parts of the spout and the handle, not up close to where the white is, because I didn't want to get, red paint on the white paint. I did also decide to paint that bottom trim part red, as well as this top little rim, painted it red as well. All right, I have finished painting, and I did use 2 coats. And I don't know if this is new, but I've never seen it before, but it's a Waverly varnish in matte. Once I started using the varnish up against that red, I stopped what I was doing because I was seeing that it was starting to run a little bit. All right, you saw how I struggled with doing the Waverly on here. I think the red either just didn't cure long enough, but it started kind of running a little bit. So and I do want to use that on the whole piece. So before I am going to use that, I went ahead and sprayed the whole piece and the lid with this acrylic sealer matte finish. Now I could just use this because it is a quick dry, but I do also want to use the Waverly sealer as well, just to give it as much protection as possible. All right, now that everything is dry, I am going to use a transfer from this Redesign with Prima set called Joyful Jingles. And so for the front of this teapot, I think I'm going to use this. And then possibly for just right here on the lid, I may use this one. Now, because this is a rounded surface and there is a little bit of texture from the way I painted it, I'm using my fingers to rub the transfer onto the piece. And when I get halfway through, I start kind of cutting some of that clear transfer paper just so that it doesn't wrinkle and I'm able to lay the transfer down in parts. Now that I have the transfers on there, I'm just going to go over it with a little bit more of that varnish just to seal that transfer in. And this project is done. And here it is finished. I just think this turned out so pretty. So when you're thrifting, don't overlook those little teapots. And if you've made it this far in the video, leave me a Christmas tree emoji in the comments. For this project, I'm gonna use this tray that I thrifted from Goodwill, and it has a $1.99 sticker on it, but I got it when the red stickers were half off. So I only paid $1 for this. Then I'm gonna make a riser out of it. So I couldn't really find any sort of feet looking wood pieces from Dollar Tree. I see people getting little wood pieces all the time, and I don't ever seem to find those. But I did find these little wood, they're called wood dice, DIY wood dice. So I am just gonna use these for the feet of the risers. I had to get 2 packs of them to get 4. Then I'm gonna use another transfer from that same IOD transfer set, and I'm gonna use this truck. Now, this was a lot of empty space, but I couldn't use anything that was gonna be too long, like a word that was too long. So I do have this word joy that I got from Dollar Tree. It was in a pack of, I don't know, 3 or 4 words. So I am going to paint an area red, and then once it dries, I'm gonna set this joy word down. And when I paint the tray, I'm gonna put this down and paint over it, and then pull it up so that you see the red joy come through the white, if that makes sense. You'll see it. You'll understand what I'm talking about when I do it. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead, take the sticker off, get it cleaned up, and then I need to glue these feet onto the bottom of the tray. To glue these on, I'm using wood glue and a little bit of hot glue just to get it set. And I'm just kind of eyeballing where I want the feet to go. And I let that wood glue dry really good. And then I just start painting it, and I'm gonna paint the bottom and the top and the little feet with Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster. I did start to go over painting the top, and then I realized I forgot I was gonna paint that one little section red. So I just kind of outlined it with the little brush and put a little red area on there, got it to dry with my little heat gun, and then I laid the word joy down on top of that. I tried to hold the metal down. Sorry for the view. I'm totally blocking what I'm doing, but I tried to hold it down as good as possible and paint around the word with the plaster color. And then once I got that done, I just painted the rest of the tray. I did leave the joy down until I did 2 full coats of the chalk paint on the top and the bottom. And then once I finished painting, I took some tweezers, pulled that word joy up, and you'll see that some of the white did get under there. So I have to go over it with a small little paintbrush with the red and just kind of, you know, fill in the spaces that were covered with the white paint. And then that is done. And I just let that dry completely before the next step. I just want to take a minute to welcome everyone that is new to my channel. You've never been here before. Thank you so much for coming by. And I hope you're enjoying what you see. If you love this sort of content, I love thrift makeovers and thrift hauls and home decor. So if that's something you enjoy, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. Now I'm gonna put the truck transfer down, and this one was way easier to maneuver. I guess because it was more of a solid piece, and it was on a painted surface, but this one was really easy to go down. The only thing was it did cover a little bit of the J, but that's okay because I fixed it once I burnished the image on. I just took the handle of the paintbrush, dipped it in the red, and just went over a couple of parts that needed it. Finally, I'm going to go over it with a coat of the Waverly clear wax again. And once I get it all on, I go over it with a shop towel and wipe away the excess. And at one point, you'll see kind of where the red paint smeared. But that's the great thing about the clear wax, is it takes it right away. And this is how it turned out. Let me know what you think. Before I close out the video, I do want to share a Bible verse with you. And this verse comes from Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. And it says, "My old self has been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. So I live in this earthly body by trusting in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me." I hope this verse blesses you in some way today. I hope you enjoyed all of these Christmas crafts. Please make sure that you let me know which one of these was your favorite. And also make sure that if you're not subscribed to my channel, or if you don't have that bell notification turned on, that you go ahead and do that, because I have a lot of great Christmas crafts, Christmas thrift makeovers, Christmas DIYs, and some Christmas decor that I'm going to be showing you for the next couple of months. So I hope that you stick around to see all of those things. If you'll notice, I'm out here where I have a lot of items that I have in my Whatnot shop. I'm a seller on Whatnot now, so if you have not followed me there, then make sure that you check out the link that I'll have in the description box. If you've never signed up, you can click that link and you will get $15 to spend, and hopefully you'll do it in one of my shows. But I do have a Christmas Whatnot show coming out tomorrow, so you'll make sure you want to see those because there's a lot of great Christmas items. But if you're new to my channel and this is the sort of content you like, whether it's home decor, thrift makeovers, thrift hauls, I would love for you to be a part of my YouTube family. So go ahead and click that subscribe button and click the bell button so you're notified when I upload new videos. Make sure you join me on Whatnot, and also give this video a big thumbs up because it really does help me out with YouTube. And if you want to see more videos like this, then go ahead and check out the boxes that you see on the screen right now, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.